So I wanted to record something talking a little bit about how the healing journey is very much a roller coaster ride, and how this can be one of the most challenging parts of the healing journey. But it's so helpful to remember this, because it doesn't mean that your journey is playing out wrong or your healing is kind of, you've messed it up, right? So it is a roller coaster ride. And I've just been reflecting on that in myself recently, like even in the deeper stages where I'm just finding, the integration in life, there's still so much roller coasteriness, but it's part of the beauty of it, I suppose. But it is really helpful to realize that things can still fluctuate a lot. So, just based on my own reflection, sometimes for like a week or even a couple of weeks, everything just feels like a real flow state for me, and a rightness. Maybe it's not even that long sometimes. Maybe it's like, I don't know, a couple of days, whatever. The point is just that it can be like, wow, there's nothing, there's no shadow, there's no challenge, everything's great. And then all of a sudden, 2 or 3 days, things just really ramp up in intensity in the nervous system. And, reflecting back on it on myself, it's generally when I'm exploring an aspect of life where there's triggers that I didn't know were still there. And the beauty of it is those triggers only come out through exploring an aspect of life that I hadn't explored yet. So basically, like, the key thing is there, I don't kind of find the deeper stages of work through just meditating 24/7. I mean, that's fine. And if that's what you're doing, that's great. It's a nice thing to do. But in my own experience, like, I've sometimes used meditation to avoid kind of the dynamism of living a full human life. And the more I engage more and more and more on the human level, all of a sudden something will come up and it's like, wow, look at that. Like, and sometimes it's not so like just calm and peaceful as well. Look at that. It's just like, fuck me, this is intense. I don't know what to do right now. I don't know what's up, what's down. I sometimes feel like I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place where, I want to take a step forward, but there's nowhere to go. And every step forward feels like the wrong move. And I just, I've reflected back on it, and that's like surrender finding you. It's like in all this spiritual and healing path and awakening and all of that, we talk a lot about surrender, and, often we want to surrender, but careful, careful what you wish for, because when surrender really finds you, it's because you're so stuck, or this is my experience, you're so stuck between like absolutely nowhere to turn, and it just feels like you're burning up, but you can't do anything about it. And then that's it, that's surrender, right? Because you literally can't do anything about it. And it's not even a choice in that moment. It's like, that's why I feel like the phrase surrender finding you is so powerful, because that's what it feels like to me. Like the last few days, now it's settled again, but it was like a period of like 2 weeks of just excitement and lots of things happening, and then a few days of just pure like struggle again. But struggle in the sense of just like having to feel into the challenge and be surprised by what was still coming up in the system. And again, it means nothing's gone wrong, because it was still some trigger that needed to be explored. It needed to come out. And that's the beauty of, again, don't feel bad if you're not living a busy life, but that's the beauty of exposing ourselves to things that might be slightly triggering and might be slightly challenging. When it feels intuitively right, that then it's an opportunity to kind of show us in ourselves what still needs to be felt through. So basically, to kind of enclose this video, I just want to reiterate that the journey is a roller coaster. You'll have periods where it feels like everything's going along very nicely and you're making a lot of progress. And then there'll be periods where you feel like you've plateaued and you stagnated. And then maybe you just need to feel into it and, ask yourself some questions and inquire and maybe journal on like, what do I actually want to do? Is there something I really want to address in my life that I'm not addressing? This is always this was always helpful for me. It was like I was really deep in on the awakening stuff, but there was actually a lot of things I needed to address in my relative life, like just, integration stuff. And it's okay if you don't know either. I've had so many periods where I felt like I need to address something, but I have no clue what it is. But just in becoming open to the fact that maybe there's something I need to address, it will probably show up in your life. That's how it's happened with me. Or I'll feel into it and I'll sit with that and I'll kind of write about it. Or I don't write that much like I used to, but I'll just sit with a certain feeling. If there's something I want to address, maybe it's around relationship, maybe it's around, career, whatever, health, any of these kinds of things, and just be like, I want to address this in my life. And what can I do to, help support myself on this path? And not get too caught up in the resistance and the victim and the fighting. Like, yeah, for me, because I was saying, things are still a roller coaster sometimes. But when I'm in the downward dip of the roller coaster, just for whatever reason. When I say that, I want to clarify, because lots of different people watch my videos. I'm not saying that like I feel like I'm sick again and I can't do things. But the nervous system can be very overwhelmed. So it's comparable to kind of a flare-up or something. But, people can get scared when they hear me say that like, wow, even you can still have tough days. And yes, absolutely, I can have very tough days, specifically if I push my nervous system very hard with like lots of travel and socializing and hardcore exercise. But for me, I just see everything now as a nervous system upgrade. Really, everything is, if I push myself into those states, or life pushes me, because I'm not really doing it, it's just environment and circumstances and things lining up, then it's an opportunity for me to process something that's showing me where to let go. Or maybe sometimes I feel like even it's showing me where to take my foot off the gas a little bit, because I do find myself a lot in go, go, go mode nowadays. Probably got to do with drinking a lot of caffeine again. I feel like that fuels that mindset of pushing. And but I do, I have noticed recently that life actually wanted me to put a little bit more emphasis on self-care for a little bit, and realize like, oh yeah, I'm all about pushing boundaries and dropping limitations, but self-care is important as well. So doing little things like going and sitting in nature for like a few hours and leaving my phone at home, not posting anything for a bit, was beautiful. And it was really helpful just to kind of ground myself. So just be open to like, what do I need to address in my life? Sometimes maybe we need to push, and often we need to ground ourselves, and then we can use various modalities, yoga, deep breathing, meditation. I do a lot of meditation, but I found things like yoga and being in nature and going for walks and really forcing myself into the physical body. But like, yeah, with like yoga or something like that, I don't do it often enough. But when I do, it always feels like it helps process things. And so it's a roller coaster. It goes up, it goes down, but it's all part of it, right? You don't want this to be too easy because you're not going to grow then. Sometimes I'm like, fuck, I wish it was a little bit easier, but yeah, I don't really. That's just a bit of resistance, and that's fine. Even the resistance is fine. Like I can acknowledge that in myself. Like, hey, look, there's the victim. The part of me that wants to play the victim. Maybe I get caught up in it a little bit, and then I'm like, okay, but is this going to serve me? Or, and again, just hold it lightly, right? You're not going to be perfect. So even I'm not perfect. I mean, I'm definitely not perfect. But yeah, when things are challenging, it's like giving some space to the victim that needs to be heard and held and acknowledged, and letting it all out. Really, that's what I do. I just be like, oh, okay, there's some stories coming up, some resistance, some anger, some fear, some frustration. Bam, let myself feel that, really get in touch with it. But then there's a difference in getting in touch with it to release it, as opposed to seeing your worldview as, against you, right? So I've spoken a lot about this in recent videos, but it has just been reinforcing in my own perspective as well. When I'm going through some challenging phases again, I can very much see the contrast, right? Where it's like, yeah, shit is actually going a little bit difficult right now, and it could be like financially or health or relationship, whatever, and just realize that this is this is what needs to be happening, right? This is here for me to learn something. This is here to open me up. This is here to teach me a lesson. This is here to prepare me for something later on. Like, I really just do see things this way. And it's a much more empowering way to live than this has messed up the path that I was on. Because what was that path in any case? You know, you really see that nothing can get messed up. Nothing can go wrong. But it can still feel like it, right? So it's to acknowledge both sides of it. So yeah, it's a roller coaster, and just remember that. Don't get too caught up in the dips. Like, there will be dips, and they will be very challenging, and you have to realize that is equally as important as the highs and the good times. And the less we fight and struggle with it, the more it smooths out, I feel, over time. But who knows? I don't know where I'm going. Let's see. But yeah, that's today's video. All the best.